Tactile Turn is a company owned by Will Hodges, and right now they are on their 8th Kickstarter campaign for these pens. And my history with them goes back a while because several years ago I was looking for a new pen. I've been known to be kind of fond of pens. And I was looking for a new pen and I came across Will's mover and shaker pen. And I decided to pick up one of the shakers. That's the smaller one. The mover's the long one, the shaker's the shorter one. And I picked up one of the titaniums and it was a great pen. But one of the problems that I had with it over time is that the mechanism occasionally would get stuck out like this. And it kind of started doing it more and more, and a couple times during it. It wasn't really predictable when it would happen, but it was kind of annoying, and then it was hard to get the ink to go back in. And so I eventually kind of just sort of stopped using the pen that much because I just thought, well, maybe I got a bad pen, bad sample. And I just kind of set it aside and stopped thinking about it. And then I got an email from Will about the new Kickstarter campaign that was coming out for these pens. And looking at the list of improvements that he made with the new and, well, improved pen, one of the things was the mechanism. And the mechanism on this, which was a German Schmidt mechanism that almost every pen, all of my nice pens use, he decided to redo that and make his own mechanism. And this new in-house mechanism does not have any of the problems. It's all titanium, it's bigger, it's weighted better, so the pen is more comfortable when you're writing with it, and it shouldn't fail you. One of the other problems that he addressed was that some people, the grip on this, the texturing was just down here, and some people write differently, he realized. Some people hold the pen down here, just like you learned in 2nd grade, but some people may hold it in weird ways. Maybe some people hold it up here, who knows? Some people just write in weird ways. So he decided to take that texturing and extend it all the way up the length of the pen. And so you end up with something like this. And this does several things for the pen. It both makes the texturing there, so no matter how you hold it or where you hold it, you're going to get some of that texturing, and I'll get to the texturing in a bit. But the other thing this does is it makes the wear on this pen really not show as much, because on this one, this titanium had the texturing down here. The rest of it was just sort of a smooth, polished titanium. And you can see now, I always carry my knives in my right front pocket next to a knife. And this pen has become kind of a brushed titanium, kind of beaten up over time. So these, with this new texturing that goes the entire length of the pen, should cut down on a lot of that because it's not going to show the scratches like the old ones did. Third thing that he fixed is that on the old pens, you can see that the ink is right there at the tip. And apparently some people had problems where either the pen would get pushed just a little bit, causing the ink to come out, which doesn't take very much, or because the refill was just so right there at the tip, people were getting problems where their shirts or whatever they had it in were getting ink on them. So what he did with the new mechanism is that he put it way down in the pen. That ink is much more retracted into the pen. You can see it's right on the tip there, and the new titanium one on the left, it's got to come way up from down. It goes a lot deeper into the pen, so you're not going to run into any of those problems that some people apparently did. Now he offers the two different sizes of pens, the mover and the shaker. The mover is the longer one, the shaker is the shorter one. I'll put up this graphic on the screen. All these I have borrowed from Will's website. So you can see there the specs on them. The mover is 5.5 inches, the shaker is 5 inches, 140 millimeters versus 127. In your hand, for me, I have medium-sized hands, and the shaker is a perfect size. Sticks up just a little bit past the tip of your hand, but not too much. These new mechanisms provide a little bit extra weight compared to the old mechanisms, which were a little bit thinner, you can see. So a little bit extra weight back there, and it's just a nicely balanced pen. Also, if you're going to carry it in your pocket, it doesn't stick either too far down into your pocket or too far up out of your pocket. The mover, on the other hand, it's obviously a little bit longer, but I wouldn't say it's too long. Carrying it in your pocket, it is going to stick down in, looking at where the clips go. So it's going to stick a little bit farther down into your pocket if that's an issue for you. They're both great pens, just depends on how you're going to use it, how you're going to carry it. You can also see there that the pens come in several different materials: stainless, brass, copper, titanium, and aluminum. I debated between all those. I decided to get the shaker in an aluminum. The aluminum comes in 9 colors. It's a 6061 alloy. It's very lightweight, but still has, I'd say, kind of just the right amount of heft to it to write comfortably with it. It comes in 9 colors. I'll throw the colors up on the screen here so you can see. Plenty of options there. And these pens, like this one, they are all the material of the pen except for the pocket clip, which is steel, and the mechanism which is titanium. So this pen, all aluminum, except for the steel clip and the titanium mechanism. The titanium mover that I got, nice weight to it. It's a little bit heavier, not by a ton. It's kind of a light, medium weight. The titanium is tough, it's lightweight, it's extremely corrosion resistant, and over time, it's not going to change color or oxidize like the copper or brass might. The stainless is a 304 stainless. It's going to be also tough and corrosion resistant, and it's not going to change colors. The brass is a 360 brass. The copper is a 145 or a tellurium copper, and both the brass and copper are going to oxidize, kind of like this Matthew Martin copper pen that I have here, and over time they're going to dull down and change color a little bit. So for that reason, I went with titanium. Be curious to also maybe try the steel at one point, because it sounds like it's twice the weight of the aluminum you can see there. So I'd be curious to see just how hefty that feels in the hand. Now let me go over the general construction of these pens. First of all, in the back there is that new mechanism. And the new mechanism is wider, it's bigger than the old mechanism. Some people want to know if you could fit the new mechanism in the old pens, and you cannot. You can see there it's bigger, it is a little bit heavier, and it adds some nice weight to the back of the pen. These pens, this mechanism, it's sort of a non-click. So you push it, there's almost a little bit click when you're coming out of it. But otherwise all you can hear is that titanium kind of moving in and out from each other. But it doesn't have the problem where it gets stuck like the old mechanism did. So nice improvement there. The mechanism is just ever so slightly smaller than the body of the pen. Next down is the pocket clip. The pocket clip is made of spring steel, or steel that's been treated with heat, as I understand it, so that it will not change shape. No matter how many times you put it in and out of your pocket. Some of my flashlights, the clips eventually just start protruding more and more out, more of the times they go in and out of my pocket. So the clip is not going to change shape like that. There's a little hidden Easter egg on these pens. The only branding that he did on these pens, some pens are super obvious with branding, like this Surefire pen. No doubt that you've got a Surefire pen. Or some pens have a little bit more subtle branding, like this Burke pen, kind of subtle on the pocket clip. But these, he's put a little Easter egg, and that is right back on the back of the clip there. Tactile turn. And if you get it during the Kickstarter campaign, there's a little K back there to signify that you got in early. My only small quibble with these pens is in the pocket clip, and I wish that the end down here was flared out a little bit more, because I always carry my pens in my right front pocket, and if I'm wearing some thicker pants, sometimes I have problems getting this tip over the fabric of the pants, and it can be a little bit challenged. So I might like this to be flared out just a little bit more. If you're going to carry it in a dress shirt or a suit coat, not going to be a problem, or in thinner pants, but in thicker material, that can provide just a little bit more challenge. Sometimes I have to grab it and kind of pull it out some. The body of the pen has that texturing, and that texturing is really nice. I have some pens like my Matthew Martin pen, and the texturing was so sharp that I had to cover it up with this rubber shrink wrap, and so you can't see it now, but it was deep and sharp and almost cut my fingers. The texturing on these is darn near perfect. It's so subtle, it's almost like it's there, but it's not there. It's just enough to give you some grip on the pen, but it's not there. I mean, you almost can't feel it. I don't know how to describe it. You can feel just enough to get the grip on the pen, but otherwise you almost don't notice that it's there, because it's so subtle, and I think it adds a nice look to the pen, either in the aluminum or in the titanium, whichever one you get. He did a great job with that subtle texturing. Next, moving down the body of these pens, there is a seam in here, and can you see the seam? You likely cannot. That seam is right there. And one of the interesting things he's done with this seam is that inside here, he's put an O-ring. And right there is an O-ring. And what that O-ring does, it doesn't weather seal it, but it makes it so the pen will not come open. One of the problems I've had with some of my other pens is that the tips on them, several of these I've had to do this with, the tips on them were coming loose, so I had to Loctite the tips on, which is great because now the tips of them don't come off. The downside is that if I want to change the ink, well, it's kind of Loctited and hard to get those tips off. So then it seals back up, and once again, that seam just disappears into the pen. Speaking of the ink on these pens, they have two different refills. They both come with black ink. The mover here on the left comes with a 0.38 millimeter Pilot G2 refill, and the shaker on the right comes with a medium point Schmidt Easy Flow 9000, and they have very different writing characteristics. I would say that that Pilot G2 refill is a very fine point, as you can see there. And when you write with it, it's a much more deliberate feel. I wouldn't say it's gritty, but compared to the Easy Flow 9000, which per its name just glides effortlessly across the paper, it's super smooth to write with. That Pilot G2 refill is a little bit more, just feels more precise. It's a much finer tip there. And then both of these pens will take a bunch of different refills. Lots of them for the mover, and the shaker will also take just any standard Parker style refill. So there's a rundown on the pens. Now, an obvious question with this becomes, if you have one of the old movers or shakers, should you upgrade to the new ones? And there's a couple obvious answers to that. If you have one of the old ones and you were having the problem with the mechanism where it would get stuck out like that, and you really like the pen, then by all means, upgrade to one of the new pens where you're not going to have that problem with the mechanism. If you didn't like the grip because maybe the pen was getting all scraped up because it was smooth back there, I think the texturing on these new pens that goes the full length of the pen is fantastic, and that would be a reasonable reason to upgrade. If you want a different color, if maybe you had the titanium and he's got some great colors in these aluminum ones, great reason to pick up a new one. If you want to get one as a gift for someone, fantastic gift. So they are great pens. If you're checking out this video now, go check out his Kickstarter campaign. If you're checking this video out from a month from now to 10 years from now, go to his website and pick one out, because another great set of pens from Will Hodges from Tactile Turn. Check out the new mover and shaker pens.